Hello and welcome to this episode of Mindset Mentoring for Athletes, Families, and Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Coach Chuck. On this show, we explore how mindset shapes achievement, resilience, and well-being across every season of life, from the classroom to the playing field to the workplace and at home. We look beyond motivation and dig into the beliefs, habits, and emotional patterns that determine how people respond to challenge, transition, and pressure. Today's conversation will invite listeners to reflect on how self-awareness, emotional literacy, and intentional thinking can shift the trajectory of a life, not through force, but through clarity and alignment. So stay tuned for that conversation. Parents today are carrying a weight that most generations never even had to name. Anxiety is rising, depression is rising, and teen suicide is now one of the leading causes of death amongst young people. And here's what really gets said out loud. Parents, you struggle too. You're trying to lead your family in a world that's changed faster than anyone prepares you for, and you love your kids deeply, yet sometimes wonder if what worked for you is enough for them. I'm Coach Chuck Barnhart, and I spent nearly 40 years as an educator and mindset mentor, and I've watched this shift up close. I've also lived it as a father of 4 children. My son Billy and I are launching a family mentorship because transformation doesn't happen in isolation. Teens don't need fixing. Families need leadership, language, and tools that bring them back together. This mentorship is designed for parents and teens walking the journey together, guided by experience, faith, and practical mindset training. And if you're part of the senior generation, a grandparent, a mentor, coach, or trusted voice, I want to ask something of you. Please consider sharing this with the families you know. Sometimes the invitation carries more weight when it comes from someone they trust. And somewhere out there is a family that needs to hear the message. This isn't for everyone, but for the right families, it changes everything. You can learn more by going to thechampionsmindsetmentorship.com. Welcome back. Our guest today is Jacqueline Powell, a motivational speaker, certified Maxwell Leadership coach, and author of Finding Your Way to Self-Love. Jacqueline is the founder of Powell to Empower, where she helps individuals, families, and organizations strengthen confidence, resilience, and self-leadership through mindset work rooted in clarity, compassion, and personal responsibility. Her journey includes navigating toxic professional environment that challenged her confidence and sense of worth. Through a powerful mindset shift from endurance to self-alignment, she chose growth over survival and built a purpose-driven path that now empowers others to do the same. Jacqueline blends storytelling, neuroscience-based insights, and practical tools, including emotional reframing and Ho'oponopono practices to help people move from self-doubt to emotional living. It's a pleasure to welcome Jacqueline Powell to the show. I love that Hawaiian word, but boy, I sometimes stumble over it. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Coach Chuck. Yeah, you are not the first one.
Yes, it's it sounds exactly the way it's spelled, but there's so many of the same letters and all. It's easy to stumble over. But I always love to have my guests just kind of begin at the beginning, just give us a little bit of background, of family background, where you grew up, how you were kind of raised, just kind of setting the frame for the things that we'll really begin diving into.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I am originally from Canada, so I moved to the US in 2001 and I was on a sports visa. And through all of that and the first number of years down here, I went through a divorce and had to pivot my career no longer on the sports visa. And I was on a green card and had to reinvent myself out of the sports industry and find my way into the corporate world. Managed to find myself at the helm of a second divorce and pulled myself through that. and in 2019 became a US citizen. So I joke that y'all are stuck with me now. And it was an incredible journey. I loved every minute of it. I learned a lot. And that brings me up to now being located in Florida, and I walked away from the corporate industry last year to follow my path and my passion of helping others as I went through the divorce and the career changes alone. I have an incredibly supportive family. However, they have always been rather far, located all back in Canada. So sometimes they were very supportive, they just weren't supportive in person. It's not quite the same. So I want to make sure people know that whatever they're going through, they're not going through alone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important message. And all of us have our stories that we tell ourselves, all the things that we not only just tell ourselves, but we live through that help shape us and can really help us to empower other people, which is one of the reasons why I love having this show and bringing guests on because there's so much to learn from our life experiences. So, you had the personal challenges of it's never easy separating. Divorce is it's a deeply stressful emotional experience for all those involved. But you also talk about that toxic work environment. So can you kind of walk us through that, the things that you're feeling, and kind of the timeline when something began to shift in you, and you kind of were like beginning to make those sort of mindset shifts that you need to make in your life? What might have triggered that, and what the process was for you to to kind of go through those and not let it, it knocks you down, but not let it keep you down.
Absolutely. It was probably almost 3 years ago. It was back in 23. And I started just everything that I did at my job. I would always go above and beyond and, offer to help this and take on that. I was just taking on everything and helping, and none of it was appreciated. Just the appreciation level was going down. And every time I would do something huge in my eyes, it was just brushed under the rug everywhere else. It was the taken advantage of, and just not being appreciated, and that over time just being knocked down, being told that you're just not good enough, not supporting my outside endeavors. I tried to improve my public speaking by joining Toastmasters eventually. I tried to improve my that was also going to help my presentations for big board meetings and stuff. And then eventually just being told that you're not worth the investment. All those things over time for somebody that you came to the company highly respecting and wanting to learn more from, all of a sudden just started having a cloudy gray era to it. And it was it was hard to not bring it home, right? If you have a really toxic work environment, it's hard to not bring that home. You have a really terrible day. You just been knocked down, punched out type thing, and you don't want to bring that home to your family. You don't want to be short with your kids or not want to socialize with your spouse or your family. And I did my best to stay open about it with my husband and tell him everything. So I started looking for other jobs, and nothing was really piquing my interest. And I sat down one day and was doing some work late at night, and I got a phone call from my boss who just decided to yell at me over the phone at 8 o'clock at night. And my husband turned around and he's like, "This is it. You're gonna have to start looking somewhere else." And I sat there and realized, I was like, what's the one thing that I love about my job? I absolutely loved meeting new people, hearing their stories, giving them tools of encouragement and helping them in sales. And, you know, that was all over the US. I covered half of the country. And I also worked with companies overseas. And so just the different cultural experience. And that's what I loved. So I was like, okay, how do I take that and put it into something? So over the next year and a half, I slowly started putting my business, Powell to Empower, together. And that's what kept me going. That it was having something on the outside that was like, okay, I'm doing steps behind the scenes every night on weekends. I'm spending a lot of time. My husband and I call them my bonus boys. They were incredibly supportive. I decided to go down further in public speaking. I joined the John Maxwell Leadership team and the mentorship program there so I could learn more. I could perfect things a little bit better. I decided to get certified as a positive psychology coach. All of the tricks that I was learning there, I was implementing them right away in everything that I was doing in the corporate world. And I still enjoyed the people that I worked with. There's the culture had changed so much and it wasn't something that I wanted to be a part of. So I was able to implement what I was learning and feeling the results. It's not something that you can just necessarily see, but it's when you feel the results. And I didn't shed a tear over leaving my job. It was an empowering moment. I pulled myself through it with the support team that I have at home. And I think that's incredibly important that I actually reached out to my husband's boss, who I have a decent relationship with, and I said, because you have such an incredible work ethic at your company, my husband was incredibly supportive. The ripple effect from your company enabled me to follow my dreams. And that's something that I encourage in my positive psychology coaching. It's all those jobs that I applied to. They weren't my dream job. They were somebody else's dream job. I didn't beat myself up by saying, well, didn't get that one, didn't get that one. That's somebody else's path to take. And that's so it was a matter of just, one more day, keep chipping away, keep your head up, everything's going to work out. And it really has. I have been incredibly blessed that I get to share my story with other people that are going through divorce or not sure about how to handle different situations on their professional life. And knowing that they come back to me that they've walked into a room and they've been able to hold their head up high and they change the energy in the room, and that's me as everything.
There are a couple things you said in that answer I want to kind of delve into a little bit. One of them is the idea of, you know, the toxic environment, not difficult, not bringing it home. And, I've shared this quite a bit on my episodes, but my wife was in a toxic environment at her. She was a teacher as well. I taught for years as well, and it was her school district that she grew up in. I mean, she had been either a student, a coach, teacher in that district for just about her entire life, and
Wow.
she really couldn't digest what was going on in that district. And, she'd come home and vent and let her vent and, give all that kind of support. But she was really keeping it inside of her. And that led to cancer. I'm
Mm.
100%
Yeah.
convinced that's what led to cancer. She was diagnosed in June of 2022 and passed away in July of 2022. And
Wow.
my message for people, it's that whole experience has been one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to make some of those old mindset shifts. And there's things that you can do in your um, life to process those things so you aren't just holding on to it. And in hindsight, we had both met working at a school with kids who had some real serious emotional behavioral challenges and all. And, one of the things that we wanted to get across to these kids is don't whine and complain about your circumstances, do something about it. So that was a
Mm.
mindset my wife had, but what that meant to her was she wasn't going to whine and complain, but she wasn't also dealing with it healthily, so it kind of manifested itself. So, I share that a lot because I think that describes an awful lot of people. There's the whole idea of self-medication and all the other things that people can do. Um, but you also, you and I, it seems like we've shared some similar paths as well, like the whole public speaking thing, Toastmasters, getting some mentorships and all that. But you teach about the importance of a mindset behind everything you do, right? Like it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the message I have. It's like it's that mindset is what's going to shape how you react to everything. Can you kind of talk about that aha moment where you really began to put that together and where you began to say, "Oh, that's what I need to that's what I need to do or teach people or coach people or you know, how whichever word you want to use for describing that relationship you have with clients and people you work with?"
Yeah, I can't stress it enough that it's your perspective, right? And I feel like that's part of the mindset shift. So your perspective on everything will guide your next steps, whether that is, responding to something angry or aggressive or letting something completely flow and it's okay. There's a few aha moments, but I'll share one definitely. And I did a speech for Toastmasters and it through the speech competitions. And one of the sections in my speech, the purpose of the speech was it's your story whether you want to share it or not, and it's somebody else's story whether they want to share it or not. And you can't judge somebody for whether they tell you something or they don't tell you something. That's their decision. And one of the examples was my parents were down visiting from Canada and they were in Daytona Beach and we were over there. My husband and I were hanging out the day of my birthday. And it's kind of funny that we got talking about divorce. My husband is divorced once, I'm divorced twice, and I kind of self-labeled myself as the black sheep of the family because nobody in my family, my aunts, uncles, cousins, nobody was divorced. And here I am going for two, like I don't encourage anybody to go for a high score, but here I am. And my dad all of a sudden says, well, when my ex didn't show up, the judge just granted it. And I'm looking, and my husband is standing between my dad and I, and his eyeballs are like a little ping pong match, like dad, me, dad, me. And I was like, excuse me, what? I was 45 years old and had found out for the first time in my life that my dad had been married before my mom. And not for no reason, I didn't get mad. And I think that was a huge aha moment because that was my dad's story. That was my dad's life. It had nothing to do with me per se. That would happened entirely before he met my mom, and they were married for almost 7 years before I even showed up. So it was that entire situation that I try to tell people we can harbor so much anger or resentment, like they should have told me, he should have told me that earlier. It was my dad's story, it's not mine. Granted, it could have maybe helped me get through my divorce a little bit, knowing that I wasn't a black sheep of the family. But then again, I'm the one that assigned that label to myself, and it wasn't a negative thing, it was kind of a joke. But it was my dad's story to share when he wanted to share it, and he's like, I thought I told you. I was like, nope, kind of think I would have remembered that one. So the joke when I was getting closer to 46, I was like, anything else you want to share? Some other skeletons in a closet, or we got them cleared? It's a joke now. And I share that openly with people because I think it's the perspective of receiving the information. It's that mindset shift. Like, it's okay. You told me when you wanted to tell me. Not a day too soon, not a day too late. It happened exactly as it was supposed to happen. And I love my dad more than anything. And that did not change for one, not even a nanosecond. And in fact, I maybe even brought us closer because now we have one more thing we can joke about and banter back and forth. But that was definitely an aha moment that I was like, yeah, I'm really living what I encourage in people is to have that open perspective and to not keep yourself awake at night by saying, should I have told them? Should I not have told them? It's your story. You can't beat yourself up if you tell somebody and if you didn't tell somebody. This is your journey. This is how you're taking your steps forward in the world. And I think that perspective can kind of ease the burden a little bit and have a little bit of a positive perspective throughout the day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you talk just there in that little story about family too, the family stories that we kind of absorb growing up that we don't often think about, but can have a huge impact on the stories we begin to tell ourselves. And you use the word label in there too, the black sheep I think, right, was a label. And those labels that we attach to ourselves, or we either give ourselves or we accept, sometimes they can come from family dynamics. And those are powerful things that can really have a negative impact on people, right? Long term.
Mhm.
How do you go about helping people get to that? Like you kind of said, it's your story. It's not this. When you talk through people, how do you get them to get to that aha moment? What are some of the strategies that you use to really kind of help them understand that it's my story, or the labels? I don't need to accept this label, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question because there's no cookie cutter answer. And I tell everybody, and I think that's partly why I wanted to write my book. Is my book is full of tools that I use to get me through my difficult times. I didn't use the same tool every single day. I didn't use the same tool every time I needed something. They're just at your disposal. And I reiterate to so many people that I work with and that I speak to, the key thing is to not judge your journey against anybody else's. And it's really difficult nowadays, especially when social media and the illusion of perfection is shoved in your face every time you open your phone, every time you open an app. They're like, oh my gosh, they're so happy and beautiful and perfect. And then you start internalizing that comparison. And then you don't realize, but that little crack against yourself just starts spreading and water gets into it, or whatever, however you want to analyze that. I encourage people, I was like, follow somebody on social media that inspires you. I follow people that put up motivational quotes every day, or that share positive news that's going on in their life. I think it doesn't hurt to lift other people up. It makes you feel good when you're lifting others up as well. But and to touch back on the word in the opening is ho'oponopono, and that's the Hawaiian healing method. And I did a speech in Daytona Beach about it. And it's being able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And I tell people, like, you really need to look yourself in the mirror. And if you struggle to say them, just at least look yourself in the mirror and take a deep breath and say, I'm here. I'm here and I'm okay. And then eventually you'll get to, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for doubting you. I'm sorry for probably some of the choices I made that I thought were a good idea at the time, but looking back, probably not. That's okay. You did the best that you could with what you knew. And then so you can say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Forgive me for those choices that I made. You have to forgive yourself. Your world is going to meet you where you meet yourself. So when you can start forgiving yourself for all the bumps in the road, whether you initiated them, reacted to them, however you handled it, just forgive yourself from today all the way back. And then you do that again tomorrow. Forgive yourself today all the way back, and the next day. And then say thank you. Thank you for getting me to today. Because I remind people, everything that you went through, you are an undefeated champion to get through to today. Undefeated champion. As ugly as some of those battles might have been, you're an undefeated champion. And then the last step, the most important, is I love you. To look yourself in the mirror and truly say, I love you. I love you through all of it. Absolutely all of it. Because it brought you to the amazing person that's in the mirror today. And the world needs that version right here, right now. And I think once you can get to that, you can build anything you want. Nothing can stand in your way. You're not going to be perfect every day, but that just proves you're human, that you're going to have your ups and downs, rely on different tools to get you through. But I think those are some key things, is to make sure that regardless of what baggage you had that you were carrying for years, and so many of us carry so much baggage, is eventually the journey is to get it down to a tiny little TSA approved carry-on. That's my joke that I joke with people, is we'll get your massive amount of baggage down to a cute little carry-on that's TSA approved. And you can do anything you want after that point.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of really powerful things in that answer you gave. One I want to bring up real quick and kind of get your opinion on that because you mentioned it, social media and the impact of that. Uh, did you see that with your? How old are your children now? Are they young adults or adults or?
They are
Is it,
17 and 20, and
uh,
I came into their lives 6 years ago.
so you've seen the impacts, particularly with a 17-year-old of social media, and to me, it's a huge issue, and there's more and more research about that constant social comparison and all. And for for we as parents, we awareness is so important on that end about its impact.
Mm.
But then you gave some great remedies too about positive self-talk and all those things. Are there Have you ritualized those sort of things in your own life? Because you kind of talked about, you forgive yourself, you do it today, and then you do it tomorrow, and then you do it the other day, and also the thank you, that gratitude practice. Have you kind of, for yourself and even for uh, clients that you try to help, tried to ritualize that practice so it is something you do every day? Because I talk ad nauseum about morning and evening rituals, right? You got to build those in your life. It's what really got me through the whole grieving process after I lost my wife. Um, Anyways, I won't go into all that. But can you talk about the idea of taking what you did and making it habitual? Do you find that is a important thing to try to empower people to do?
Absolutely. I encourage people, and throughout my book that I wrote, it's create a habit that it speaks to you. Don't mirror somebody else's. And then, because if the minute we mirror somebody else's and we deviate a little bit, we start beating ourselves up, right? It's, oh, I didn't do it today. And then we kind of put that negative spin on things. So I encourage people, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Look yourself in the mirror today, even if it's you come up with your own. It doesn't have to be the ho'oponopono four phrase ritual. It's, I got this. I am enough. And tackle the day and make sure you go out and appreciate the sunshine. Don't be afraid to put your phone down and look up. There's an incredible world to be viewed and appreciated from the time your eyes open to the time your eyes close at night. And if it was a really crappy day or things didn't go that well or you didn't get the promotion or whatever happened, don't say my day was terrible. You had a moment. There's a moment to build on it, and do another ritual at night. If it's journaling, I encourage people to journal and not to sit there and pretend that the grammar police are going to show up or anything. No, just journal as if it's just one constant flow, right down to your pen on paper. And don't use a blue screen or your laptop. Like, grab a pen and go old school in a journal and write it out. Write it exactly how you feel, raw, emotional, passion, whatever it is, and let it out there. I definitely encourage that, to end the day if you had things that really upset you or you find yourself kind of lacking a little bit of that appreciation for the day. Anything to help kind of spin it around and be like, okay, today didn't go quite as planned, but tomorrow's a new start. And maybe you add something else into your morning ritual. I know people have put up a sticky note on their mirror, so when they're brushing their teeth, they're reading their positive affirmations in the morning. And maybe you let somebody in that's cutting people off or whatever, and wish them a good day. There's all sorts of little things that we can do throughout the day to stay positive, to stay appreciative, or to show gratitude for everything. And I think that's really important. And that's what we reiterate to our two boys is we talk to them like they're adults. They know everything about my past. They know the difficulties that I went through with my second ex. They understand, and I wanted them to realize that it's okay to start over in your career. Just because you chose something and it's not quite working out, that it's okay to reinvent yourself. We've been very open with them on that, and we do monitor their social media. Just because you touched on it, we do check in. They follow me, I follow them on social media stuff, and they're incredibly supportive of my YouTube channel, which is really cool. So they keep getting my positivity coach Jack messages.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, You know, you've mentioned your book a couple times, and as somebody who wrote a book too, that whole process can be kind of daunting sometimes. What was it that you really wanted to accomplish with that book, and kind of sum up what your, the message and the tools that you kind of gave in your book, but also just some people I think get intimidated. Oh yeah, I would love to write a book. I got a story to tell, what have you, but they don't believe their story is worth sharing, or there's lots of reasons they don't do it. You want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I always tell people, they're like, oh, well, I have a really cool story, but I'm pretty sure nobody wants to hear it. Or it's been told a million times. And I always tell them, I'm like, first of all, no two stories are the same. We've all walked an incredible journey and we've all experienced things so vastly different. So I encourage people, like, write it. You can self-publish on Amazon, you can do it all yourself. And if it takes you 2 years to do it, that's okay too. Don't beat yourself up if you're like, well, my goal was to do it last year and I didn't do it, so I'm just not going to do it. I Okay, make it a new goal. Be like, this year I'm going to do the second half, or I will start it. I'll get the first half. If you, some people only have time to work on weekends. So I decided I wanted to do my book. I had met another author in Toastmasters and we talked a little bit. He let me be a co-author in a book that he put together and I really liked it, and it kind of was the spark that my message I wanted my message out there, only because when I went through my, especially my second divorce was really tough. It I really felt alone and I had to learn the difference between being alone and being lonely. And sometimes when you come home and you've had an amazing day at work or you had amazing experiences and there's nobody to share that with. I have a dog, I have a cat, I had my horse. I told them everything. They just didn't feel my excitement, right? So you wanted that human interaction to celebrate with, to go out and cheers and have a fancy dinner or whatever, however you wanted to celebrate. And I knew I just there's other people out there, maybe women that are going through it alone. And I spoke from a woman's perspective through it, and how I use different tools, whether it's music, my animals, my horse, who could be, he would spook at a leaf falling down when I was riding him. However, he knew the days that I came out to ride him and I was a complete mess. He never put a foot wrong. I would just get on him, we'd go for a walk for maybe an hour, and I would just cry and tell him everything and just let the raw emotions flow out and tell him. And he carried a burden he never signed up for, and I truly believe he was my four-legged therapist, and he helped me through it all, because eventually the memories, the words, the emotions, none of that had power over me. I could talk about any point and be like, yeah, it was a really tough time, and I speak openly about it, and none of it feels negative, none of it feels heavy anymore. I was able to move it all. So those are some of the tools that I use. I mentioned journaling, and that's something that I feel, I don't journal every day. I'm going to sit there and I'm not going to tell people you must journal every single day. I journal when I really need to sort through some things. I'll write it all out, and sometimes it brings me clarity, and sometimes I've got to journal again later on and figure it out. And it's not to sit there and say I never feel down or I never feel sad. Yeah, but I have an amazing arsenal of tools that I can rely on, that I only feel down or sad maybe for a moment. And I'll go out and listen to the music that I want. And it's just like a mini little reset. And it's like, yeah, that's right. Here we go. And so that's what I basically talk about in my book. I just want people to know that all of these I use. If one person gets one tool out of there that can help them through it, that's the positivity ripple that I desire for other people to have. Because if you're having a good day, that good day is expressed to those around you, in your home, in your work, just while driving. And that's the endless ripple effect that I'm hoping to reach through speaking, through my coaching sessions, and through my book, and hopefully future books.
I encourage people, if anybody hears or anything that you say, they feel something click, then that's a sign that, all right, maybe you should hear your story more because it's something about what you're saying that's resonating. And you and I could say the same thing, but with different people with different perspectives. And what I might say might not really click just because of, human nature, whatever, but what you say does. And so I encourage people, to like get as many perspectives as you can because what they say, if it clicked, then there's a seed there that you need to cultivate. You need to make sure it gets planted. So, um, it's one reason why I do this podcast and encourage people to write books, write their stories, and share them. So, kudos for you for getting that done too, because it can sometimes feel like a daunting task for some people. Um, something else that you have said is this idea of shifting from survival mode to living life joyfully. I don't remember if that was the words you used, but going from survival mode, and it reminded me of I think it was Emerson who said most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Right? They're just getting through, and I see that so often, and it really kills me when I see young people, teenagers who are just in that survival mode. Can you talk about what you meant by, you know, what that mindset was like in survival mode, and what happens when you shift out of that?
Right. I always relate survival mode to autopilot, right? You're getting up the same time, you're doing the same routine, you're going to the same places, you're coming home, you're going to bed, you're getting up, and it's the groundhog day without the funny Bill Murray. And it's the same thing that doesn't light a fire in you. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you excited. And that doesn't mean that you need to just completely, turn upside down your life. It means find something in there, whether that's taking on something else at work that encourages you to learn something new, that pushes your comfort zone, that can help you grow as a person. And again, don't put a timeline on it. Just be willing to step out of your comfort zone, expand yourself. Or if there's what are you looking forward to this week? That's one of the exercises in my online course that I encourage people to list out is this week here, what do you have to look forward to? Is it your kids sporting events? Is it, maybe for us, we joked yesterday on Sunday, my husband and I were like, we're gonna have 2 hours of quiet time in the house because our boys are going to a movie. And it was like, okay, we just let the fireplace roar and just we had quiet time. That's what I looked forward to, that we had such crazy schedules for 6 days together, all the whole family. And it was just 2 hours of the dogs were napping on the couch, the fireplace was going, and we both were just reading and 120 minutes of quiet. But it's those little things. Find something in your schedule each week to look forward to, even or every day. I always mention to people that maybe it's at the end of the day, you get 20 minutes to meditate before you go to bed. Something simple. Build on that. Build out what excites you. Maybe tomorrow it's 20 minutes to go for a walk outside and just get some fresh air. Maybe not up in the Northeast and the Nor'east or all that weather right now, but find something that gets you excited. So that way you can shift from just that autopilot survival mode. And there's that spark, that draw to learn something new, do something new, experience something new. That all of a sudden changes a shift in your brain that you become a little bit more desired of more of that. I hate to use the word addicted to it, but you want more of that. It brings an excitement into you. And it might be something different this week, next month, and that's okay. Or I joined the Peterson Academy. I love learning more new things. So I am a lifelong learner with Peterson Academy. So, I set aside time every single day to work through the courses there. And there's no timeline on it. And if it takes me a couple months to finish a class, so be it. If it takes me a month to finish a class, even better. I look forward to my time with new professors with that. So it's those little things, and it's different for everybody. So that's why I try to encourage people.
Yeah, I agree. It's sometimes, actually, often, I think it is those simple little things, the simple pleasures of life that can have so much meaning. My kids will tell you that they, and I'm a father of four, and they were all pretty close in age, but they will all tell you now they're young adults, and they loved Friday night pizza movie night. It was a And my wife and I would get all excited, right? We were both working in schools and stuff, and we'd come home and we would be all excited, and they talk fondly, my kids do, of how much they looked forward to pizza and movie night. Simple,
Yeah.
relatively inexpensive. It doesn't need to be a big deal, but
Right.
it builds it, and it spreads out, right? So it impacted my kids. It's simple things that can have such a powerful impact. I want to
Yes.
shift gears slightly, in that Hawaiian word, ho'oponopono. See, I have a really hard time with that. Can you talk a little bit about that? I've heard, you know, some there are some other ancient Hawaiian practices. When I was going through a timeline therapy training and hypnosis training with Dr. Tad James, he lived in Hawaii, so there were some Hawaiian practices that he would often mention. But that was one I wasn't familiar with. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what that is and what it entails?
Absolutely. So Ho'oponopono, and I never heard about it, and I love working out in the mornings. If I don't do it in the morning, I'm not going to do it. I know myself, so I make sure I block out just a little bit of time for some working out in the morning. And I belong to this online fitness group back in. I joined them in 2018, and I just did different exercises, and I wasn't really sure about meditation. So I started doing a couple of the meditations in the mornings. And this woman came on as a recommendation, and she is based in Hawaii and talked a lot about the different Hawaiian healing methods. And the one day she decided to talk about Ho'oponopono, and she explained everything and just through the meditation. And for some reason, of all the workouts, of all the meditations, everything that I did over the course of 5 years, that is the one that stuck with me the minute the words were coming out of her mouth. There was just something about it that resonated deeply with me. And I started looking into it, I started reading books about it, and it was her soothing delivery, I think, that instantly just had me relaxing, taking deeper breaths, and just kind of absorbing what she was saying. And I was like, this really needs more attention. And it was part of my speech that I did in Daytona Beach. And I had people coming up to me afterwards that were saying, I had no idea that was something, and I love it. What you said resonated with me. I'm going to go buy a book on Amazon about it. Like, it sparked a lot of interest. And the four phrases that I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you, are really just the basis. There's so much more beyond that. However, I feel if you can master those four phrases, then that opens up your thoughts to other relaxing, how to handle different situations. You can absorb other things. You can start there and sit and self-reflect a little bit, saying, I didn't need to get upset over that, or I don't need to be responsive. I don't need to take what you said personally. So it gives you the tools to just take a moment and breathe before reacting. And so you can respond instead of react, so to speak. And I love it. I started using it, and it really helped me when I was living by myself. And that was one of the situations where I was like, okay, I feel like I can conquer anything. I don't know how to re-enter the dating world at 40. That was something really weird. I didn't want to do all this crazy stuff, and or at 39, and I had people coming up to me, they're like, "Well, you only turn 40 once for your birthday, so what are you going to do to celebrate this milestone?" And I was like, "Well, I kind of think you only turn all of your ages once, but." And it kind of started to wear on me, and that's when Ho'oponopono came in, and I was like, okay, I don't need to let what they're saying wear on me. I'm okay being alone. I'll take myself to dinner. I'll go see a movie by myself. And it gave me the self-confidence. I found it in myself through those words to go out and do something crazy for myself for my birthday. And that was drive a tank, crush cars, and shoot machine guns for the day. So I had to make sure it was an epic birthday. And I attribute it back to months and years, and it's a matter of time of believing in yourself for through those words, and there's no timeline on it. Don't say, well, I'm going to start saying them on Monday and I'll feel better by Saturday. That's not how it works. Some days you'll feel amazing, and some days you'll really lean on them, and you'll only feel marginally better, and those are the days that you really need to be like, I'm okay with that. Like, marginally better is still really good. And that's kind of what I encourage people with Ho'oponopono. It's an entire realm that there's so much to learn and do, and definitely look it up. There's some incredible books on Amazon, and I think the world could use a little bit more of it.
You know, I haven't been brought up in a Christian background. I think one of the challenges that so many Christians sometimes have is we get afraid of learning about some of these other practices that have come from other cultures that can have so much value because for some reason they think some of the things will conflict with Christian teachings, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I mean, there's a whole lot that we've learned from some Eastern practices in terms of like meditation and mindfulness and breath work and all of that that I are so important and so powerful. And it's like throwing out what's that adage? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing, right? And I think sometimes that's what some people can do. But spiritual practices, psychological practices, and physical practices sometimes really overlap, right? There are
Yeah.
things that uh, incorporate all of those, and I've made some Tai Chi work part of some of my routine, and the breath work is definitely part of my routine. That's powerful. So
Mhm.
I I think it's valuable for people to kind of look at some of this because of its impact and finding something that fits with your, it speaks to you is really important to help you deal with the storms that are going to come your way because there's
Yes.
one there's one inevitable thing for sure. Sometime in your life, you're going to be sailing through a storm, and
Yep.
you want to have those tools to come through it. Um, I kind of wanted you to just you said so much in there, and we're kind of beginning to get towards the end of our time. Just kind of want you to see if you can encapsulate some of these things for people into some daily practices that you might recommend that they do to just kind of make that mindset shift and kind of get control of, you know, all the emotions that we've talked about when those storms come up. Some principles that you like to recommend to people.
Absolutely. I think that if it's sticky notes in your wallet or on your mirror or anywhere that you're going to look regularly, is find a few phrases that really resonate with you, like I am enough, I've got this. Or there's a gentleman that I follow on YouTube, and his YouTube channel is Wake Me Up, and it's 10 minutes or 50 minutes of positive affirmations, and that's all he says. He just different positive affirmations, and find something that resonates with you. I share little videos on YouTube that are, 30 seconds long of just positivity reinforcement, and know and keep telling yourself that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. The journey is for you to experience one step at a time. And I always tell people, I'm like, if every person has their own book, And you can't skip ahead to another chapter. You can't skip ahead over the ugly parts. This is not the 1980s, the 90s, choose your own adventure, that if you want to avoid all the bad things, go to page 109. That's not how it works, unfortunately. However, every person is coming into your life to teach you something, whether that's something to not do, something to emulate, something to learn from, either way. And you can't avoid characters. Just let it go. Embrace it. This is your journey, not a race. Remember, we get to a certain age, we start to slow time down. We're like, it's going by too fast. The days are flying by. Take a moment every day, even if that's you have to lock yourself in the bathroom for 10 minutes and slow everything down for a moment and just breathe, breathe. And I tell people, I'm like, listen to music. Some days for me, that's Enya or Andrea Bocelli. Other times it's Five Finger Death Punch and Skillet or something crazy and aggressive. There's no wrong answer. Put some headphones on and take it down a notch, or get in the car and belt it out to your steering wheel. It's all okay. I think just find something every day that can help you simmer it down and just breathe. And remember that you're experiencing your journey, not comparing it to anybody else, anywhere else in the world, because we love you and your journey as you are, as you grow.
You've mentioned music more than once, and that's music. Music is so powerful. It's one of the most, music and smell are two of the most powerful anchors that we can have that quickly can change your state, right? A smell of certain foods or something will just bring those flood of memories right back. But music is really powerful. So having a good playlist is a really good thing to have. Uh,
Absolutely.
your book can be got on Amazon. Name of your book and where people can get it and how they might be able to get in touch with you. I'll put some of the links I have in the description of the show, but if you want to share that too.
Sure, thank you. So my book is Finding Your Way to Self-Love. It is purple. This is the author copy, so your copy won't have a gray stripe across. This was my copy that I was writing in. So Finding Your Way to Self-Love, it's a journey through forgiveness, healing, and empowerment. So that has all the tools that I use, some funny stories in there as well, some real raw emotions that I went through. And everything is also on my website, powell2empower.com. I have a YouTube channel all under the same name, Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of that. So I do post little videos every day. So if you need a little pick me up, they're pretty short. And I like that. I hopefully can impact some people in their journey, just even for a moment, and share that little positivity ripple out there.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time out and sharing your wisdom and life experiences and all that. So thank you, and we will make sure the links and stuff like that are in the description for this podcast. But thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You know, um, with all my guests who come from so many different backgrounds and experiences and all, it's important to, filter out, take out what it is that you hear from them that's meaningful to you, that resonates with you, and then begin working on applying that in your own life. And I understand completely. This is one reason I'm in business, is it can be challenging to do that on your own. All of us have had that experience of setting New Year's resolutions and, oh, I'm going to do this year. And you get maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks into it, and it begins to fall apart. I have had coaches, I still have coaches and mentors myself. It's so important to have somebody help you go through this, these empowerment teams. This is one of the reasons that we are launching a mentorship program for teenagers and their families, because having somebody outside of that family unit to help, who's had lots of years of experience, lots of education, but also knows how to ask the right questions, to be there to support, encourage, build, give you the skill set, asking again those questions and different activities. that's how you can go from just knowledge to actually making it part of your life and building those beliefs and all that shape that mindset, as I've said, that mindset of a champion. So because this mentorship, to be a mentorship, it's really got to be relatively small groups, small cohorts. So I limit the numbers. It's an application based, want to find the right people. So if you think it might be you, I encourage you to go to the Champions Mindset Mentorship. That's the Champions Mindset Mentorship.com. Look over all the information there. If you're feeling compelled, apply. And I would love to see a number of you to become part of that mentorship program. So until the next time, go out there and live life to the fullest.